Okay, this is video number 11, and underneath this envelope is 3 cases, and you can zoom in. They say U.S. District Court, District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. The top case is an appeals case, closed type E. So as I go on my YouTube journey, I'm going at some point to expose in some way what is under this yellow or manila envelope. And under it are cases that involve the identities of some people who would rather not that not be done. But I think it's important for the American people to know some of these facts. So in the past week or so, as I just started out this YouTube channel, I've been doing a series of interviews on another YouTube channel with Farmer Jones. And the interviews have to do with things such as MKUltra, the Vatican's connection to the CIA, how MKUltra was started, details about pre-World War I and what led into the Second World War, and things like the MKUltra program, which many people have heard about. Talks a lot about Sigmund Freud, who was kind of the founder of MKUltra, or one of them. He's known as the father of psychology, the father of psychoanalysis, different titles like that. But his history has been sanitized. And even most psychologists or doctors of psychology do not know a lot of this history. And I do, for a variety of reasons I'll get into. And even going further into people like Dr. Carl Jung, it's Jung. Jungian theory is very well known in the realms of psychology and psychoanalysis. But what many people don't know is that Mr. Jung was, or Dr. Jung was also Alan Dulles' secret agent, Agent 488. And Alan Dulles was the founder of the CIA. He originally was an OSS, which was our initial United States of America, their intelligence service. And then it moved into the CIA during and following World War II. And Alan Dulles was the first director of the CIA. His brother, I believe it was John Foster Dulles, was also in there, and Alan Dulles was a CIA agent at the time of JFK's assassination. So that is an interesting part that will come out as well. So I've been doing a series of interviews with another YouTube channel, Farmer Jones, who's been great, on this history and what I know about MKUltra and the Nazis and the development of the program and the historical context to which it was built and why. What were the kind of underlying motivations at that time, and what was some of the really very disturbing parts that has been sanitized from our history in many ways. And so I've been doing a series of interviews. I did my 4th today, I believe, on this history. And as I've stated before in my videos, I was someone who enforced the law for a pretty long time in some very dark places. And I also have my degree in psychology, clinical psychology, so I was involved in that as well. So I came into this knowledge by combining a lot of that work, also a lot of research, but then I had a very interesting transition that led me to connect all these dots. And that was, I met a person in 2009 who was 79 years old. She was the child of Hitler's top commandant. And her father owned all the theaters in Munich and Berlin and around Germany. And back in those days, the big screen movie theaters were very rare. She was one of the kind of the elite German children on the Nazi side. And so these theaters were used to help indoctrinate the German youth and the Hitler youth, and also the German soldiers during the war. And she was literally at the feet of Hitler during a lot of this history, from age, early on, but from age 8 through 17 when World War II really, the bombs came raining in on Munich, and she attempted to escape and was saved by American GI soldiers, which is just a remarkable story of survival. And she made it to the United States of America and became a very famous person in her own right. And I'm not going to name her at this point, but for reasons that I can only guess would be a miracle from God that he would bless me with a chance to know this person. And many of you may not believe in all that, and that's fine. But it was my honor to truly meet her and hear her story and listen for about a year and a half, from 2009 into 2010, as she turned 80 years of age. And she passed away at that time. But in that process of a year and a half, I learned about trauma, trauma of which most, if not any, that I can think of, and I've experienced and seen a lot of trauma, could possibly imagine, just horror upon horror. And she told me the gritty details of what she saw from on the opposite side of the Holocaust victims, and then what she saw when she was escaping through Germany into Switzerland as a 17-year-old, witnessing really the gravity and depravity of what had occurred that she was not fully aware of due to her position in life. And then the coming to terms with that in the year and a half that we spent time together. She also knew Carl Jung as a friend or a associate, I guess you could say, at some point in her life, and I can get into that at some other point. But she shared this information with me in an attempt to relieve her soul, is what she would describe it, of the burden of pain and shame and guilt that she felt, even though she was just a little child when all this was happening. So we went through that process, and I've shared some of that on the interviews with Farmer Jones. So my goal is to keep sharing these interviews because it's a rich history, it's American history, and it obviously it's not full and complete because it's one part of it or many different parts from many different angles that, for reasons it's hard for me to understand, I came into contact with these various kind of extremes of these different worlds and was able to put some pieces together. So for that reason, I have wanted to share this stuff for a long time, didn't know when the right reason was, and also there's a lot of pressure to not talk about these things. It's one of the reasons why I am in possession of these cases, but I've also put them on disk drives and sent them to many other locations, safe locations, where they would be released anyway, should someone try to remove these cases from me. They've already been sent out. So that being said, I hope through the series of interviews to, maybe educate some or enlighten some, share stories of survival, stories of love, stories of trauma, stories about PTSD and what it really is, complex PTSD, stories of healing and hope, also of deep sadness and tragedy. I hope to be able to explain part of the reason that we are here in America now in this way, with things like pedophilia, child trafficking, and these really horror things that are going on that have seemingly saturated our country. I hope to explain issues regarding blackmail and compromise and how it's done, and the different levels, the ways they do it, and why many of our top, maybe, people in justice systems or law enforcement, federal agents, CIA, politicians, businessmen, you name it, are either blackmailed or are participants of this very dark world. And I hope to just bring some enlightenment and education to that fact. I don't have all the answers, obviously. I have, just a part of it. So I encourage everyone to comment, ask questions, give your expertise on this channel, and hopefully we can tie more and more pieces together to attempt to stop this kind of American nightmare on behalf of the children of our country and maybe the children, involved in this kind of all over the world. So at some point I will move the manila envelope down and reveal the identities that are behind this envelope, which will explain a whole lot at some point. So I hope to do that. This is video number 11. I'm going to post in video number 12 the first interview, and then subsequently after that. So you can listen and comment, and please give your feedback, and we will take it from there. All right, good night.